So I'm going to introduce my colleague Luis. So just to tell you a little bit of a story, a disturbing one. So you know the saying, when something can go bad, it will. So it happened. So we had a dropout for a medical reason from the moderator role. We also had a panelist in the same situation. So we had a fireman with us. My colleague Luis volunteered to take over the moderating role. He is a great moderator and speaker, so I'm not worried at all. And then we'll have also, we have Team BENSON, and also we have Matteo MERIALDO online. And we also have with us 2 new panelists. But I will leave Luis to introduce his panelists and the objective of a panel. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Corina. I think this panel is indicative for the resilience of the NISA team. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So what happened is actually something unexpected happened to the moderator. So we had to jump in and also modify a little bit or bring some expertise that we found in the corridor of this hotel. Because we believe that this will greatly support this panel. And of course, you know that the task is to give, to have some priority points for my colleague Apostolos. This is supposed to be the most one nice element of this event today. First, to say something about you, colleagues, maybe I start with the online ones. We have with us Toni BENSON from CISA, okay? Matteo MERIALDO, Cosmina and Daniel, and I'll let you know. I'll let you now introduce yourself. Toni.
Yeah, good afternoon. I was about to say good morning, because it's definitely morning here for me. But good afternoon. My name is Toni BENSON. I work at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, better known as CISA. And so at CISA, our primary role is the national coordinator for critical infrastructure. So we lead the national effort to understand, manage, and reduce risk to physical and cyber infrastructure. My role, I work a lot with academic institutions and nonprofit organizations as we kind of look at cyber as a team sport and get everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Matteo?
Hello everybody, Matteo MERIALDO. I am Business Director for Engineering and Products in Nexova. Some of you may have known Nexova from RIA Group. It's one of the 2 companies that has been the merger from RIA Group, and this new company is completely fully dedicated to cybersecurity. So normally my job is mainly related to engineering activities for the European Space Agency and other public/critical infrastructure. And I'm now quite involved on the topic of certification and accreditation as a business line for the company. Thanks a lot. And sorry for not being there physically.
Okay, thank you so much. Cosmina?
Thank you. I've been a member of the DG Connect at the European Commission, where I've drafted, negotiated, and implemented a new cybersecurity regulation called the Cyber Solidarity Act. And before that, I've been a member of the Romanian National Cybersecurity Directorate, where I implemented a host of cybersecurity policies, including Cybersecurity Act, NIS Directive, so a lot. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Daniele Cattedu, Chief Technology Officer, Cloud Security Alliance. For those of you not very familiar with Cloud Security Alliance, we are a global not-for-profit. I guess today the largest not-for-profit organization worldwide. We don't do policy advocacy. We do research, or better, the core of what we do is research. We develop framework, and we are also particularly active in the space of certification. I guess we are known mostly for our cloud control matrix and our STAR program, of which I'm the founder of, and happy to share some thoughts with you today.
Okay, thank you very much. To kick off the discussion and go through some questions, I would like to read as a teaser something from, it was mentioned a few times, is a Draghi paper. I recommend you to read it. It's very, very interesting one. And I fished out two small sentences, which of course do not represent any opinion of ENISA whatsoever. I just, drop them in the discussion, which says, one says, we have left our single market fragmented for decades, which has a cascading effect on our competitiveness. We have large collective spending power, but we dilute it across multiple different national and EU instruments. Okay. And another one says that, which already mentioned here, by the way, more than half of SMEs in Europe flag regulatory obstacles and the administrative burden as their greatest challenge. Okay. Having said that, is for us to discuss, can CRA cope with these findings, meaning to propose something to fix those, and how? So, and the first kind of question I would like to have, we know that the Americans do everything much nicer, better than the Europeans. So actually I wanted to ask, do you have any experiences where you had to start some, kind of regulatory or, guidance activity, and can you tell us of some techniques to achieve the engagement of smaller companies to jump in and make it run? Toni?
Yeah, I don't know about do it better. I think we're still figuring it out, just like everyone else. But I do think one of the things that sets some of the policies and some of the directives that we've put out apart is we definitely take an effort to do public comment, right? And so we can kind of understand what some of those challenges are. So like you said, the implementation for a smaller company may be very expensive, right? And so are there ways to do subsidies? Are there ways to kind of partner those smaller organizations with larger organizations? But really trying to understand. So one of the areas that I work in is stakeholder engagement. And so we really look at how we not only look at it from a federal government perspective, because sometimes it can come off as all-knowing, which we know is not true. And so how do we incorporate the thoughts and opinions and comments of the public and private sector as well, so that when we do put something out or roll something out, it's comprehensive. And so I think that's one area where I've seen a lot of engagement over the last several years as we've rolled out some critical infrastructure reporting requirements and other initiatives where I see kind of working together with the community has helped us.
Okay, thanks a lot. Cosmina, can you tell us something from your commission experience, some examples in a positive way that you can get engagement from the low to medium level enterprises for activities? What kind of incentives could you think of?
Yes, so the text of the CRA itself mentions several ways of supporting the SMEs to implement the obligations set in this regulation, and this includes skills, cybersecurity skills and advanced ones, support from the member states and the Commission. And we already have a tool in this regard, which is the European Cybersecurity Skills Academy. Then we also have funding and the European and national funding to support the third-party assessment of SMEs. Regulatory sandbox, you name it. So there are several elements mentioned in the regulation. Good ones, effective ones, but to those I would like to add several points to increase the efficiency of this, or to ease the burden of implementing this. And this, first of all, SMEs, yes, they need money to evaluate their products. Instead of thinking about how to inject money from outside inside, then we should rather focus on how to increase the economic growth, so they have themselves the money to support this evaluation. And this, to achieve this, we could look at several industrial policy measures, including increasing the demand of the use of digital products, and this, the most essential one is to increase the digitalization of the SMEs themselves, and also to develop an ecosystem, a digital ecosystem across all the supply chains. Another point to support this endeavor is, of course, the investment itself. The private sector has, I mean, in Europe we have a culture where we are extremely risk aversive. And because of that, I mean, there's a study from European Investment Bank highlighting that, in Europe we are not investing enough because we are risk aversive, because we're investing in topics that are not so bold, to say so. So this doesn't allow us to really grow, to innovate disruptively. And to overcome this barrier, we look at blending financing and match funding, in which the public and the private, they combine funds to really engage with ambitious topics. And last but not least, address the fragmentation. It's super important, and this is highlighted in many documents, to complete the digital single market, to allow the companies, the innovative ones, to thrive, to develop. And this leads me actually to one interesting point in the political guidelines, which is the 28th regime for the innovative companies. Mm-hmm. And I'm personally looking really much forward to see where that is going to take us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have maybe a question on what you said. Of course, these instruments mentioned in the CRA indeed are very good ideas, but are they further elaborated so that, for example, the regulatory sandbox has a certain form, or is it just a term? I mean, are there any activities towards implementing this regulatory sandbox for CRA, or it's just an idea?
I think the regulatory sandboxes have their merit. They're quite interesting because they would allow us to predict what's in front of us and really to prepare us to go forward with the implementation of the CRA. And it will really allow the companies to ensure a smooth evaluation of their products. And yes, there are examples, but of course, CRA, it's very specific to, and it's very specific to the European market. And we will definitely draw from lessons learned from other projects, similar ones.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay, thanks a lot. Daniele, would you like to say something on incentives? You might incentivize your members at some extent. Not monetary-wise, but otherwise.
So I've been in cyber for over 20 years. I just have like some vague memories of my business administration courses back at universities. So possibly I'm not the most appropriate person to talk about incentives here. Definitely, those are going to be an essential part of the picture. Hearing the debates earlier today, I think it was Elias from Broadcom who said, in my opinion, two undisputable truths. One is that consumer and smaller companies are not ready nor willing to pay for security. And the second is that as a result of these regulatory changes, we're going to see the additional cost that is going to be transferred directly to the consumer. Now, on the first point, if we bring the analysis to the ultimate steps, I think we are going to end up in a situation that Andreas yesterday was describing about the market of lemons. So with the risk of spiraling down towards the bare minimum of security that anyone can do. We all know that that's not an acceptable end game. So from this perspective, I guess we really welcome the CRA. Now, as a part of the discussion, you have mentioned a series of, let's call it, incentives, funds that are made available by European institutions or member states in order to support part of the market in achieving compliance. I would argue, though, that those type of incentives are never going to be enough, as in we have a scope of application for CRA that is so large and so deep that I don't think we are going to be very successful only by providing some partial funds. To me, there is a need for more. I don't know if that would be fiscal incentives, which possibly is a route or a much more appealing route when we talk about security. Yesterday, someone, I think it was the speaker from MasterCard, said, we need to move from a situation where security is a cost center versus a situation where security is going to be a profit center. Now, that would be my dream as well. If I want to be realistic, I don't see that happening at all. Security will keep on being a cost, so it's just a matter of how we can smartly allocate those societal costs at this point through the supply chain. Again, from my perspective, fiscal incentive would be a good tool to streamline and to somewhat alleviate the burden that this is inevitably going to cause in the market.
Thank you. Okay, Matteo, you'd like to add something on this?
With pleasure. I generally agree with the opinions of my colleague. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're talking about what kind of how SMEs can, yes.
I got it. So I generally agree with the opinions of my colleagues before. I think from an economical perspective, tax incentives could be quite interesting for SMEs in order to adopt to perform the conformity assessments of the digital product throughout the CRA. But I think that from a governmental perspective, there should be also an investment on technical assistance and resources. And let me explain. The fact is that the CRA brings quite a lot of interesting elements to the cybersecurity supply chain. I mean, the security by design, security by context is very, very interesting, and I think it's something that we really need in the digital market in Europe. But what sometimes lacks is really the knowledge on how to perform these processes in a way that is sustainable for SMEs. And in that, I see the role of the national coordination centers quite important, because they could drive and explain to SMEs in their countries what are the best way to perform, to adopt these processes in a sustainable way. I see the work that the CCB in Belgium, the National Coordination Center in Belgium, from an awareness perspective, but also to provide tools and frameworks that can be immediately applicable. That I think it's extremely important and should be considered as a flow down from the CRA, because fiscal incentives are good. The importance of cybersecurity, unfortunately, I don't think, I agree with my colleagues, I don't think is widely understood enough. But definitely having the means to perform what the CRA is asking, the practical means, I think it's fundamental for organization. If I look at my organization, it's a cybersecurity company, so adopting the CRA in our products is not going to be particularly complex, but I can see many SMEs that probably will struggle quite seriously on even adopting the basic frameworks, basic principles of security by design. For that, I think it's really necessary that the European bodies and the extensions throughout the National Coordination Center will really provide a practical support. So not too much on the policy, but really on the practical aspects. I think that's a fundamental. And try to take the topic more from a technical engineering perspective, but at the end of the day, it's fundamental, my opinion. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, just as a reminder also to Toni that today we had a discussion with big organizations active on security, which they obviously in their supply chain can impose the requirements, but the CRA is actually more, fortunately or unfortunately, more about other products with not inherent security awareness, like for example, I don't know, baby phones, security locks, for example, for a smart home environment. So actually, obviously, in the security lock, you can expect that they have some idea about hacking the thing, but there are a majority, I mean, a big amount of products where you could not expect immediately that these guys have a cybersecurity awareness. And I think that for this area in particular, will be interesting to develop some, you know, as you said, process or group practices, and if they are available there, that we try to see what are the components, including those mentioned by the Commission. Now, one question that I would like to discuss is if there are experience with coordinated spending instrument, and I have to again to look to our colleague in the US. So the idea is, okay, you start spending money, and then some people down the chain are doing something. Are there any experiences or methods to be in the position to coordinate this in a way that we don't have this diluted spending environment that our colleague Draghi has identified? Do you have any experience with that, or any ideas or something that you guys plan to, or you are using?
Yeah, I think that's where it becomes a little tricky, right, and complicated once the money leaves the hands of the government and kind of is dispersed out. One of the newer, I guess, grant programs that we've done really is to get the hands, giving federal government money. It's a $1 billion cybersecurity grant, and essentially states can come to us with a plan of how they're going to utilize that funding. And then from there, once that plan is approved, that funding is given to the states to be able to sort of shore up their critical infrastructure and things like that. And so the part of it that I like is it's not just, hey, we want some money and here's the money. It's here is the plan that we're going to execute, and then we validate that those plans are being executed via different mechanisms, right, of reporting, you know, visiting sites or whatever the case may be. So that is one way where there's kind of like a disbursement of funds from the federal government level. It trickles down to the states so that the critical infrastructure that relies there can have the tools and the resources it needs. I did want to circle back really quickly about secure by design and secure by default, because I think that is one of those things where we have put a concerted effort to have the software companies take some ownership in just developing the products initially, right? Don't put the risk or the assumption that the consumer who doesn't have the knowledge base potentially to be secure, right? How do we out the box have some level of security, and what is that? And I heard a little bit on the panel earlier, what is that continued life cycle of ensuring that those updates and those things are done? And so I think when you look at it a bit more holistically, how can we, and what we've done is kind of partner with software companies to say, we're not trying to beat you with a stick, right? We're trying to come to a table to say, how can we do this better? How can we put security as part of the life cycle process and not an afterthought because we're trying to get things out to market quickly? So again, I think it's a back and forth because I remember the government, especially when I was in the private sector, feeling like it's just, we know everything and thou shalt do. And I think we're trying to make an effort where it's a conversation where, yes, we ultimately probably get the final say, but we don't want it to be, this is what you'll do, this is how you'll do it, without understanding what the impact of that is to the overall ecosystem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, I think we have another 8 minutes to go. I don't know if you from you guys, somebody wants to add something. Matteo, one thing that I have here on my list as possible question that I might do it is, would it be possible to, have a kind of cyber resilience or CRA as a pilot for a regulatory kit, toolkit, just to try to evade, or to resolve the problems of fragmentation of the market. So, for example, let's take a product which, of course, not one very security-related one of the middle level of classes. Not classified as high security, and see how the European market is it, or the market in general, is it fragmented? What happens if you try to introduce CRA-related security functionality in that sector, and if this could, bring us forward towards defragmentation of the market, or enhancing the skills and capabilities of, few SMEs maybe, something like that. I don't know, what do you think about that idea?
For me, just
yes.
to be sure. So I think that in general, the CRA initiative I was mentioning before, it's quite interesting. It's quite innovative, and as far as I know, is much more down to the market than other initiatives, much lower level in terms of the type of security controls, let's call them, that wants to push. On the other hand, I really believe that the only way by which this initiative will be successful is if, from a governmental perspective, so top down, the regulation is clear and is properly pushed throughout the member states, also using the support of national coordination centers and so forth. On the other hand, of course, it should bring more the defragmentation of the market, because of course each single the SMEs in the European market will need to work better together in order, from one side, to improve the resilience of the supply chain, and from the other side, to improve the conformity assessment part. So for the conformity assessment, there is a big market that basically the CRA is creating, the CRA together with the AUCC, because it's an interesting market for cybersecurity companies, and that can help the defragmentation of the market itself, because at the end of the day, if the CRA it's at the European level, that should help the connection and the interactions between organizations in different member states. So I see that from a very positive perspective on the long term. Of course, the legislation will need to follow and will need to support both of the sides, so the conformity assessment targets, but also the conformity assessment organization. So I really think that it could provide one way to defragment the digital market, as well as other initiatives from the Commission and from ENISA.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
Yes, so I think CRA does several really interesting, brings several interesting additions to the European market. Yes, first, harmonization, the most important one. It creates common security standards for the products with digital elements. And this is very important because it sets really the tone, the type of technologies that we're using that serves our society. And it's a way of ensuring that our European values are embedded in these products from their conception to their end of life cycle. It's also a really important step in building the digital single market by creating sort of clarification, uniformization in the market. So it's easier for the European developers to develop and sell the products in the European market and also to set really the standard at the international level. It also brings greater transparency because the customer will make informed decisions when they purchase, and this will be a major step towards increasing the level of cybersecurity at the European level. Then it's also an important element for resilience because it's with the enhancing of the digitalization in the SMEs, we'll also have more vulnerabilities because we'll have a larger attack surface. But by ensuring that the products are really have security in mind when they are developed, we increase the resilience at the European level, which is very important. And then it's
one
also
last, just because the time
okay.
is
Just
right.
one point about competitiveness. It helps the European companies to be competitive at the European level because CRA supports them in really bringing to market the best kind of products.
Okay, thank you. Daniele?
Well, I guess I've been talking enough the last 2 days, so I'm also tired to hear my voice. No, there are few things that I think it would be good to mention. There are several aspects of CRA that are extremely relevant, extremely important, and very promising. One item that I didn't hear mentioned enough during the last couple of days, and especially today, is how are we going to scale this across the ecosystem? Inevitably, when we talk about this stuff, it's going to, the only answer we're going to have is automation. Thinking of scaling the number of thousands of conformity assessment across all the universe of companies, small and big, that we have in the market, it's out of question. So we need automation there. Having the illusion to be able to control the supply chain and especially the S-bomb without the proper automation, it's disillusional completely. Because S-bomb means many things, including the relationship between the components of various S-bombs. From this perspective, as we have the CISA in the panel, certainly it's going to be more than welcome a cooperation between CISA and ENISA or the National Security Agency in Europe for the definition of a standard for S-bomb, because again, otherwise we are going to start talking languages that don't match with each other, which is a recipe for failure. One additional point of compliance, which seemed to be kind of the scariest point for everyone. I have some experience in building a compliance framework. They are expensive, unless we try to look at compliance in a sort of different way. When we try to secure our pipeline, our CI/CD pipeline and development pipeline, this is a matter, if we really want to talk about security by design, we are talking about embedding security control within that pipeline. That almost inevitably equal to the idea of compliance as code. Now, what I'm trying to get to is that there is a route in order to be able to have, with one single shot, both the operational security and the compliance being satisfied. But that goes through a process of stimulating the approach of modern technologies and embedding automation and making sure that finally, when we talk about DevOps or DevSecOps, we are really breaking those silos and trying to have security people closer to that pipeline. Now, we could discuss about many other things within CRA because there are topics like information sharing that we didn't touch upon. Even there, I must say, I'm not completely clear on how the proposed platforms are going to, proposed platform is going to overlap with other existing efforts, both at European and international level. So I'm very much curious to see what the future is going to tell us and how we are going to kind of spell out these requirements as we go.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I would like to more or less close now. Maybe we can take one question from you, but one last question to Toni. What is the opinion in the US about these developments in Europe, or the CRA? Is it, say, a positive one, or is it to say, oh my God, yet another regulation is coming over? What is your opinion about CRA?
So not to speak on behalf of the whole United States, right? But what I will say is that I think there's always a good balance between the carrot and the stick, right? And I think that's what we are trying to do on our side, right? And understanding the impacts before we kind of drop the guidance, right, or the directive. And so I think that anytime you can have some standardization, and anytime you can be working from a common understanding, it's great, as long as the greater of them all get to at least put some input into what that looks like, and not be afraid to go back and say, maybe we need to relook at some elements of this and change it as applicable. So I think it's good to have some standardization, but I also think it's good to look at it as a ecosystem versus just kind of a directive coming downward.
Okay, thank you very much. I think there is one EU-US forum discussion that is going on. Maybe that could be a good topic just to address at some time. No, yes, I mean, look, Cosmina said it's everything great with CRA, so for Apostolos nothing. I mean, we came empty. Now, eventually, get this. It's a pity. Maybe one question from you guys. Yes, please. What about interoperability was the question. Interoperability of what is the question?
We talk about standards, regulation, and so on, but at the end of the day, there are information systems.
Indeed.
So we should endeavor to make them communicate better, to make an effort to. Of course, it's a danger because a virus in one system can propagate everywhere if you don't have enough.
Okay. Yes. The political. I know what you mean, of course, but I have to say this is not a topic for my panel. Unfortunately, sorry for that. No, this is indeed something which we need to look at. That's out of question. So, any questions? One more? No. Okay, then thank you very much, all guys, also from the other side of the Atlantic. Thanks, and we revanche. When you are in Europe, we invite you for a drink, coffee, tea, wine, whatever you like, eventually.
This time for real, the coffee.
Okay, good.
But make sure 10 minutes no more so that we get into the last very special panel so that we don't go get to 6 o'clock in the afternoon here. So thank you very much.